All right, so what we're going to do today is first off create a new project. So file, new website, and it'll be an ASP.NET website. Give it a home somewhere. All right, so we have our empty website here, and what we're going to do is we're going to start off by adding that global.asax file that we talked about earlier, and just see what the contents are. We're not going to actually modify anything in it. We're just going to go ahead and add it and view it. So, let's see, add new item, and we're going to look for global application class, global.asax. All right. Now we haven't needed this in our course thus far, and we won't need it for the rest of the course, but we're just going to investigate and see what this file is all about. And it's thinking. All right. So as you can see, it automatically loads, and it doesn't even bother with like an ASAX like ASP style code. It goes right straight into the C# side of things. So we have here a few methods here. Application start. So upon somebody loading the site up, this method runs. It could be like special code, maybe to connect to a database or to open a JSON file or open some special settings, but maybe some reason why you want to have code run automatically before the person even finishes loading their website on your browser. Application end. So upon closing the application itself, shutting down. Now there's also set application error. So if there is an unhandled exception that might pop up, you might want to have some custom code to execute in that regard. Then there's two more. So session start and session end, when a new session is started and ended, right? So you can have some special code execute here as well. And that's it. There's a few other methods that aren't loaded by default that you can add in, but these are the main ones that pop up. Now for our course, we don't really need this file, so we're not going to go too heavily into worrying about what this file is all about for the rest of the course. So what we're going to do now is we're going to learn about master pages today. So the first thing we want to do is we want to add a new item again. So I'm going to say add new item. And I look for master page, which is right down here. So master page. And by default, the file name is masterpage.master. And we're going to keep the place code in separate file. And there's a checkbox for selecting master page, which kind of implies you could have a master page for the master page for the master page, but I guess we're not going to go that far. So we'll just hit add, keeping in mind that's the file we're going to have. I'm going to close off global.asax here, and we'll grow this or expand it full screen. So this looks typical of your typical ASPX file, and you have all your website tags. But what's peculiar here is that you have two additional tags. You have content placeholder, all right? You have an ID for it called head, and you have another content placeholder called content placeholder 1. And what you're not supposed to do is put anything between those tags. If you put anything between the opening and closing tag, that stuff disappears. Right? It gets replaced with whatever is in the actual content placeholder, so you don't even see it. So you might actually put some code by accident between these two tags, and you're opening your page and you're like, well, where is this stuff? I can't find it. So check your code and make sure it's not between these tags. Right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to start off with just something simple. We're going to put some text here. Just say, welcome to my master page. Maybe put a break tag in. All right. Now, like I said earlier, we cannot access this page directly. So we cannot just right-click and say view in browser or hit the play button and expect it to view. We need to have an ASPX file that is connected to this page, and we can view that page instead. So for now, we're going to come back to this. We're done with this for now. We need to actually add an ASPX file. So we're going to right-click and add a new item. And say add new item. I'm going to say web form. And I'll call it default.aspx. And we'll keep place code in separate file. But for once in this course, we're actually going to check off the checkbox below it that says select master page. When we say select master page, we're going to hit add. All right, so we'll choose master page.master. We'll hit OK. And let's look at what default.aspx looks like. So I'm going to expand this and full screen it. So we don't have the typical ASP code that we've seen all along, right? The ASPX file code. This is totally different now. It's very different. Now we have all these content tags. And they have IDs, so content 1 and content 2. But this is the key word here, content placeholder ID. Right now it's mapped to content placeholder 1. It knows that content placeholder 1 is already in the master page, so it's just linking it for you already. If this changes, then you have a problem. You have to make sure that it lines up nicely. So now, if you want anything to appear on the master page or on your website, you have to put it between these tags. So unlike the master page where you don't put stuff between the tags, you have to actually put stuff between the tags here in the ASP file. So I'll just show you. I'm just going to say, welcome to my home page. Put a break it. All right. So now the content page should display this text. And of course, you can go into having ASP objects and HTML code. You just cannot have the HTML head and body tags in here because they already exist in the master page. So you'd be putting HTML and head within HTML and head, right? Or HTML and body. Right? You'd be messing up your HTML code. Because what happens is these two pages merge together. So let's just see what this looks like in a browser. So I'm just going to say view in browser. All right, and this is what you should see. Right, so welcome to my master page and welcome to my home page. It combines the two pages together and it puts that out there. All right, so let's take things a step further. So we played around with the master page and something very bland, very basic, just 2 lines of text. Let's kick it up a notch. Let's learn about web controls and putting custom web controls into our application here. So I'm going to take this away. And we've seen that in our toolbox we have all of these specialized custom controls that come with Visual Studio already. You just drag and drop and you start using them, right? So we've used the text box, we've used buttons, we've used labels quite a bit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create our own custom control. We're going to create 2 of them. The first one we're going to create will be like our own custom little login. Now we have a login control already built in here. If you scroll down, eventually you'll find the login control. We're going to create our own custom dummy one just for fun, just to play with. So if we want to create our own customized control, we're going to right click and we're going to say add new item. And this time we're not looking for a web form. We're not looking for a master page. We're looking for a web user control. And it comes up with web user control.ascx. I'm going to change that name to be called my login control.ascx. Well, it'll pop up. So place code in a separate file will be checked. We'll hit add. So again, web user control. I'll call it my login control. And you notice that it has the ASCX extension. If I expand it, it has a CS file associated with it. And if I expand upon it, it looks like just your typical ASPX file from the top line, but it doesn't have any special HTML code or anything to default it to be like that would even remotely resemble an ASPX file. So its purpose here is now we're just going to add in our own custom code. So let's actually create our own little dummy login here. So we're going to say we're going to add our own custom message and a couple of text boxes and a button to go with it. So we're going to say please log in to continue. We'll put like maybe put inside a paragraph block just to. Right. And then we'll put in some text, so static text, username and password. And let's put some break tags in between just so it has separation. Put it above as well. Right. All right. So now I'm going to switch over to design mode because I want to take advantage of the toolkit and drag stuff in instead of having to type it by hand. And I'll switch and so I need a couple of text boxes. So I'll put that first text box next to username. Put that second text box next to password and throw a button below it. And we'll customize everything right after. All right. So first text box, I'm going to call it TB user. And then there's TB pass. Not going to put in the effort for validation or anything. This is just a simple exercise on custom user controls. So of course you would want to validate, you'd want to mask the password and so on. And then for the button, I'm going to call it btn login. And for the text, we'll just say login. Maybe we'll stretch it out to a length. There. All right, so this is our custom object. Right, maybe we'll add some code to the OK button to confirm that it is logged in. Right, so if I double click on login, we have here a method btn login click. What I'm going to do for this is just pop up an alert box. So we'll have a simple piece of JavaScript to do an alert, and we'll use that code we used from a few weeks ago to launch JavaScript. So first we'll say string, we'll say MSG equals thank you. Maybe I'll add in plus tbuser.text. And then we'll launch that script. So we'll say page.clientScript dot register startup script. And it's the same method from a little while ago. So we'll just say same syntax. So this dot get type. We'll give our script an ID. So we'll call this thing my alert, for lack of a better name. The next argument will be the actual code. So we'll say, I'm going to embed some of the JavaScript code in here. So we're going to say var answer is equal to alert, open the round bracket, single quote, close a double quote, say plus, and then MSG, plus again, open the double quote, close that single quote, close that round bracket, semicolon, and then comma, true as the final argument. There. And that'll be our event handler. Save that. Now, custom controls, I cannot just run this. I cannot just say view in browser and expect to see anything. Custom controls like this have to be added to a particular page. And adding it to a particular page is really easy to do. In fact, it's just as easy as you dragging a simple text box onto the screen. So I'll take this away. And now if we want to execute this object, we have to actually add it somewhere. So going back to master page.master, I'm going to switch to design mode. Maybe below welcome to my master page. Actually, I'm going to take out welcome to my master page and replace it with this new control. I'm just going to drag my login control.asax over, and you see your new control popping up. So all you do is just drag over to where you need it. Now to test it out, just right click on default.aspx, view in browser, and you should see that login control plus the content from the second page, which is this. Alright, so let's try that again with another user control. This time I'm going to do a little Google search bar. So we'll say add new item, and this will also be a web user control. I'm going to call this Google search.ascx. So Google search, and place code in separate file. Hit add, and what we're going to do for this one is we're going to just have a text box and a button. So we're going to say Google search. So we're going to say Google search and I drag a text box. You stretch it out a bit, add a button, put them beside each other, and so the ID for the text box will just be TB search, and the button, I'll stretch it out a bit, will be btn go, and its text will just say go. And with that, we'll double click to create the event handler. Alright, so double click on go, create that event handler. We'll have our btn go click. Now what we'll do is we'll redirect to Google's website with the search criteria and just let Google output the search for whatever is typed in. So inside our event handler, we'll type in search equals string search, that is. String search equals tb search.text. And I'm going to skip a line here, leave it blank for a second. I'll explain why after. But we're going to say response.redirect to https://www.google.ca/search $q equals and then plus search. Now the problem with just this alone is that someone might type in some spaces in their search entry, and those spaces in a URL won't fare very well. So we have to replace all the spaces with plus signs or %20s. So just above it, left that blank line to say search equals search.replace. We're going to replace an empty set of quotes. Now there's a space between those two quotes with a plus. All right, so notice there's a space here. See, there's a space. So let's bring this into our application and let's see what it looks like. So I'm going to switch over to master page.master. We have a little gap down here. Look at the source. So get our placement. Let's drag in first, and then we'll talk about the code behind. So Google search. Oh, sorry, I was supposed to. So we're going to drag Google search.asax down here, and it drags it in. Now before I run this, let's talk about the code that's been generated behind the scenes. So when we drag in a user control, it creates these special tags. Notice they're not ASP, but they're UC1 and UC2. So every time there's a new user control created, it starts off with this ID called UC. There's like 1, 2, 3, and so on. And the name of the file or the name of the object is placed after the quotes, or sorry, the colon. And it gives it automatic ID as well. But essentially, you can work with whatever is there. You can work with whatever is there. So we have my login control and Google search. So that's what that's what the code looks like behind the scenes. All right. So let's run this and see how it works. So run default.aspx. All right. So for lack of a better term, I'll type in red fluffy bunnies. Hit go. And you'll see a whole bunch of red fluffy bunnies pop up as it leaves our web application. All right, so now that we have our master page and our controls all lined up, the next step now is to actually finish off this page that we're seeing and demonstrate further the capabilities of the master page. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag over a few things. I'm going to turn this into a table at the end so it looks more organized, because right now it looks like a mess. And you'll see what I'm talking about afterwards. So below the login control, I'm going to add a few items. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add an image. So I'm going to drag over an image. I'll do it in source so it actually gets placed properly. So underneath my login control and just above the Google search, I'm going to put a little break. I'm going to keep that break tag there. I'm going to drag my image into here. And it'll be ASP image 1. I'll leave it as image 1. I'm not going to manipulate it. I am going to set the width, because it's a very large image, I'll set the width to 300 pixels just to shorten it down. Now, if you don't have an image to pull in, I already pulled in my image. So I just refresh. It's like right there called logo4.png. You can just write the text, this is my logo image or something, until you find an image to play around with later. And so let's go image URL. I'll pull in logo4.png. And if I switch back to design, it shows my image right there below the username login. I'm going to eventually push that to be beside username and password login. But what I want to do is, before I finish off, I want to add in 3 buttons below the image. So I'm going to put a little break tag here, just below image, ASP image. And I'm going to drag in 3 buttons. I'm going to add 3 pages. So I'm just going to copy that, and then below it, I'll put like a little break tag. Put another paste of it, break tag. There we go. And I'll have to copy that again, it looks like. There. So I have 3 buttons. Rename them to, let's see, BTN page 1, BTN page 2, and BTN page 3. And its text will be page 1, page 2, and page 3. So we have here 3 buttons that we brought in. And if we look inside design mode, they're just 3 buttons right there. So we have our IDs for the 3 buttons. We basically have everything we need except for 3 pages, page 1, page 2, and page 3. And the IDs line up. So the next step would be to add event handlers. All right, so let's double click on each button and create an event handler. So it's page 2 click, page 3 click, and we skipped over page 1, so let's go and do page 1 click. So we have our 3 event handlers there. Now, we have 3 pages. The idea is that we're going to redirect to each page. So we need to create the 3 pages that we're going to redirect to. So I'm going to right click and say add new item. And I'm going to do web form this time. This will be called page 1.aspx, selecting master file again. So I'll hit add, choosing master page.master. And inside page 1.aspx, in between content placeholder ID 2, sorry, content 2, which has a link to content placeholder 1, we're just going to say this is page 1. Maybe we'll add some little flair to it, where you will learn to code in C#. Right, and I'll save that. I'll do it again. I'll add another page. Say add new item. Web form. This is called page 2.aspx. Select master file again. Hit add. Master page.master. And I'm going to call this is page 2, where you will learn to code in Java. And then we'll do it. And this is also going to belong to content placeholder 1 as well. So content placeholder ID will be content placeholder 1. So it'll belong there. And finally, do one more page. So add new item. Again, a web form. Call it page 3.aspx. And we'll say select master page again, choosing same master page.master. So they're all linked to the same master page. And this will be, again, content placeholder 1. It'll be the placeholder ID. And we'll just put this last bit of text in. So we'll say this is page 3, where you will learn to code in Blockly. So we have here a bunch of pages, right? Page 1, page 2, and page 3.aspx. We have 3 buttons that are going to redirect to those eventually. And then from there, we're going to just organize the page into something more concrete and easy to read. All right, so let's switch back to master page.master. And in particular, let's switch over to the event handler inside the CS file. And let's set up the 3 buttons so that we redirect to page 1, page 2, and page 3 and see how they look. So page 1.aspx just had the 1 line. Well, this is page 1. And same with page 2 and page 3. So let's see what happens when we response.redirect to page 1.aspx. Right, and then I'll go to btn page 2 click, do the same thing. So response.redirect to page 2.aspx. And then response.redirect to page 3.aspx. All right, so we have all of our event handlers going to redirect to new pages. So the next step will be to run this code and see what happens. Alright, so let's see what happens when we run this. So I'm just going to right click on default and view in browser. Alright, so we have here, welcome to my home page, down here, this text. If I click on page 1, this is page 1 where you learn C#. This is page 2 where you will learn Java. And this is page 3 where you will learn Blockly. So everything is, the entire design of this template is here. It looks really messed up, but at least the idea right now is that it displays everything from the content placeholder without losing everything above. So again, it proves that the master page serves as a template for everything that you want to do in your website. So the last step will be, let's organize this page into something a little more concrete, a little more reasonable. Would be to use a table with a 2x2 grid style. So this login control will be in the first cell over here. We'll move the logo beside it, so in the same row. And then this page 1, 2, 3 and Google search will be below the login control. And then finally this line of text will be over here in that final cell. So that'll be our 2x2 table. So like I was saying in earlier classes, best to do all of your coding first as far as you can get, then create the table after, because once you create the table, it's hard to edit in design mode. It gets really messy. So now we have all our pieces in place, we can actually finish this off with the proper table design. So switching to source mode. So I'm going to start all the way at the top, and inside the div here, I'm going to say table. We'll say ID equals table 1. We'll say run at equals server. Close off that table. Move that closing table tag to the bottom, just above the closing div, which is just up here. All right. Now we're going to create a new table row just below that table tag. So we'll say ASP table row. I'm going to cut off that. And I'm going to put my UC, my login control, inside its own ASP table cell. And I cut that out. Now the login control will have its own cell, so I'm going to put the closing table cell after my login control. I'm going to open a new table cell just after it, so I can take the image and put that in its own table cell. So now the login control is in one cell, the image is in another cell. I'm happy with this row, so I'm going to close off the row and open a new table row. And cut that out. And so I have page 1, page 2, page 3 buttons. Well, I got to open up a cell first for the table row. So I'm going to open up a cell, so ASP table cell. Kill that table cell. So page 1, 2, 3, Google search. And I want the content placeholder to be in its own cell. So after the Google search UC, I'm going to close off that cell, open up a new cell, and outside of the placeholder, close off that table cell, and finally close off that row. And that should be enough for you to run, and you should see everything in an organized manner. All right, so finally let's run this. So running default.asax. Let's see what the table looks like. So I mean, not the prettiest page in the world. We have our login here. We never tested our login, so let's actually try it out. Let's say Jim Kirk. Put some random password, hit login. says, "Thank you, Jim Kirk." We have here a logo right beside the login. We have page 1, 2, and 3. We know the Google search works, so let's hit page 1. It says this is page 1 where you will learn C#. Page 2 where you will learn Java. Page 3 where you will learn Blockly. And essentially in this exercise we covered today was the whole concept of the master page, how we have a template page called a master page. We have sub-pages, which are now our ASPX pages, and they feed from the master page. We do not run our master page directly. We run the sub-page that actually loads the master page or connects to the master page. And we learned how to create our own customized controls. So we learned a little login control, and we learned how to create a little Google search control.